Picture this. You're standing in the main square of Soria, one of Spain's provincial capitals. It's midday on a Saturday, yet the only sound is wind rattling through empty alleyways. No market chatter, no children playing, just silence. This isn't some remote village. This is a major town with fewer people per square kilometer than parts of the Sahara Desert. How is it possible that Spain, a country bursting with life, from Barcelona's bustling boulevards to Seville's vibrant markets, hides vast regions where you can drive for an hour without seeing another soul? Where entire provinces have population densities lower than some of the world's most remote deserts. Here's what's truly shocking. Over half of Spain's territory, more than 250,000 square kilometers, is classified as emptied Spain. We're talking about an area larger than the entire United Kingdom, where some municipalities have fewer than 5 people per square kilometer. But this emptiness wasn't inevitable, it was engineered. What forces carved out this demographic void? What does it feel like to live where the nearest hospital is a 2-hour drive away? And why are entire communities now rising up, demanding to be seen and heard after decades of being forgotten? The answers reveal a story that challenges everything you thought you knew about modern Europe, and perhaps about the future of rural life everywhere. Because if it can happen in Spain, it can happen anywhere. Let's start at the heart of it all, the Meseta Central. Imagine a plateau the size of half of France, rising up to 2,400 meters above sea level. This isn't gentle countryside. This is a land forged by tectonic collisions and sculpted by extremes. Here, summers scorch the earth at 40 degrees Celsius, while winters bite deep with frost. Annual rainfall, often less than 500 millimeters, drier than parts of North Africa. The soil is thin, stony, born from sediment and volcanic rock, not the rich earth that feeds other regions. A farmer from Cuenca once told me something that stuck. Here, you don't work the land, you fight it. Some years the rain skips us entirely. My father used to say, the Meseta gives little, but it takes everything if you let your guard down. And here's the cruel irony. While coastal cities like Bilbao receive abundant rainfall, the Meseta waits, sometimes in vain, for clouds that never break. The mountains cast a rain shadow, leaving this vast interior to fend for itself. But even the harshest land can't explain what happened next. To understand why entire villages emptied out, we need to look at how politics reshaped the map. Picture the black and white footage from Spain's past, trains pulling away from tiny rural stations, suitcases piled high, faces pressed against windows. It's the 1950s and 1960s, and the great emptying has begun. This wasn't a gradual fade, it was a flood. Over 3 million people abandoned their ancestral villages in just 2 decades. Why? The answer? It lies with Francisco Franco's regime. Franco saw Spain's future in the factories and shipyards of cities, not in scattered hamlets. His government poured money into Madrid, Barcelona, and booming coastal resorts, building highways, factories, and tourist economies that sparked with promise. But for the interior, the message was brutal. You're on your own. Infrastructure investment dried up, schools consolidated or closed, health clinics vanished. For entire regions, there was no new road, no train, no reason to stay. Imagine a village in Soria. In 1955, the plaza buzzed with children, markets, and music. By 1975, only a handful of stubborn elders remained. Miguel, whose parents left with 5 children for Valencia, told me, "We thought we'd return every summer, but the house fell in, the fields grew wild, there was nothing left to come back to." Over 3,000 settlements across the Meseta Central faded into silence. Churches and houses slowly surrendered to time. The empty triangle linking Teruel, Soria, and Cuenca saw population densities plunge to just 3 people per square kilometer. Was this emptiness inevitable, or was it engineered? The answer reveals how a nation can abandon its own heartland without even realizing what it's losing. Step into Tyrrell's main square today and you'll feel something unsettling. The kind of silence that settles when there's more empty houses than neighbors. The numbers tell a stark story. Soria holds just 93,000 people in an area the size of Rhode Island. That's fewer than 10 inhabitants per square kilometer. In some municipalities, 40% of the population is over 65. Daily life here is measured in distance and waiting. A hospital visit means a 2-hour drive, over 150 kilometers through harsh winter conditions. Grocery stores, schools, and banks have shuttered, following the young people who left for opportunity elsewhere. Broadband, the lifeline of modern economies, remains a distant promise for many. Only 79% of rural Spain has high-speed internet access. For some, the digital world is as remote as the nearest hospital. But here's what the statistics can't capture. What does a place lose when it loses its people? Not just services, but traditions, festivals, and the subtle wisdom of land worked for centuries. What happens when an entire culture starts to fade? The answer might surprise you, because not everyone accepted this fate quietly. If you think inland Spain accepted being forgotten, you're wrong. Beneath the silence, a rebellion was brewing. Meet Tyrrell Existe. Tyrrell exists. It started as a whisper in town halls and village cafes. Their message was simple, but powerful. We are here. We matter, and we're not going quietly. Soon, the call grew louder. Across Soria, Cuenca, and the wider Meseta, banners appeared on abandoned barns. España vaciada, the emptied Spain, not empty by chance, but emptied by design, by decades of policies that funneled resources elsewhere. In 2019, Tyrrell Existe shocked Spain by winning a seat in national parliament. A province with fewer than 135,000 people suddenly held the balance of power. For the first time in decades, rural Spain wasn't just on the map, it was on the agenda. But the fight is far from over. Of 22 legislative initiatives since 2021, only 2 have become law. Many promises, they remain just words on paper. Yet, hope persists. Community assemblies fill church halls. Activists strategize over coffee in sunlit plazas. There's pride. People are refusing to be defined as relics or victims. What does it take for a forgotten region to reclaim its future? The answer isn't resignation, it's resilience and relentless voice. So, what does the future hold for Spain's empty heart? The challenges are steep, but something remarkable is happening. Technology is rewriting the rules. Remote work, once impossible in rural Spain, is now genuine opportunity. High-speed internet is opening doors for digital nomads and returning youth. The Meseta Central, once a place people fled, could become a magnet for those seeking space and connection. Then there's green energy. Those same elements that once drove people away, relentless sun, endless wind, they're now advantages. Rural cooperatives are springing up, with locals taking stakes in renewable projects. A young entrepreneur in Tyrrell put it perfectly: we're not just selling power, we're buying back our future. But let's be realistic. Legislative gridlock remains. Of 22 depopulation bills since 2021, only 2 became law. Demographic projections warn that without major action, inland Spain could lose another 500,000 people by 2040. Still, hope breaks through. In Cuenca, young families are buying abandoned homes, restoring them stone by stone. In Soria, a broadband-enabled co-working hub draws freelancers from Madrid and beyond. Can emptiness become opportunity? Could today's ghost towns become tomorrow's testbeds for sustainable living? The next chapter depends on choices being made right now, and on the resilience of those who refuse to let the Meseta fade into history. After tracing this arc from wind-scoured plateaus to grassroots marches, what does Spain's story truly reveal? First, let's be clear. This emptiness wasn't foreordained by nature alone. Yes, the Meseta's climate made life challenging, but it was decades of policy, choices that steered resources away, that prized city lights over village hearths, that carved out this demographic void. Franco's rural neglect, the allure of urban opportunity, and slow government responses all played their part. The result? A land that feels abandoned but is, in reality, a product of conscious decisions. Yet, if emptiness can be designed, it can also be undone. The pushback we've seen, movements like Terrell Existe, youth-led cooperatives, farmers turning to green energy, it proves that resilience runs deep. Here's the deeper lesson. Spain's emptied heart isn't just a Spanish problem, it's a window into crisis facing rural regions worldwide. As cities swell and countrysides fade, we're forced to ask, what do we lose when entire landscapes grow silent? Can we imagine a future where city vitality is balanced by rural wisdom, where opportunity isn't measured by proximity to a metropolis, but by the richness of community and stewardship of place? As we close, look again at those empty Spanish roads and shuttered villages, not as relics, but as ground zero for a new experiment in renewal. The story isn't finished, it's just beginning. 3 questions linger. What would it take to make you stay or return to a place the world forgot? How should we weigh tradition against the pressures of modern life? And if we listen closely enough, what might these empty spaces teach us about resilience, belonging, and the future we're building together? The silent heart of Spain has more to say than we might think. The question is, are we ready to listen?